Is all the water in your RV safe to drink and to cook with? You bet it is, if you properly filter it and sanitize your entire RV water system once a year. Today I'm going to cover how to properly sanitize your entire freshwater system. Details coming up on RV Street. Okay, let's get right to it. I know some of you think using your fresh water tank, it's just not safe to use. So you carry bottled water, big jugs of water, you may have a Berkey water system, you may put a filter up underneath your sink that you use for cooking and drinking, but you know what? That just really isn't necessary. Now, if you want to keep practicing those methods, that's fine with me, but again, it's not necessary. And besides that, all that other stuff, it takes up more room, more weight, more stuff to buy, and that plastic and stuff from all those jugs and bottles ends up in a landfill, and we don't need more of that. If you filter your water right before it comes into the RV and before you fill up your fresh water tank, it is totally safe to use for everything. Now, we use our fresh water tank and our water pump for everything, every single day. And if you'll stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to give you a great tip on when you should always turn off your water and your water pump, both the city water and your fresh water. So stick around for that. But for right now, let's start with the basics on how to properly sanitize your entire RV water system. First, you have to plan. You have to plan a day on when you're going to dedicate to sanitize your water system, because you will not be able to use any water in your RV except for the toilet. With the bleach concentration that we're going to be using, it's going to take 8 hours. Now, Joni and I normally, we sanitize at nighttime. Right after dinner, I come and I do the sanitation, then we sleep all night long. We wake up in the morning, we drain, we rinse, we finish up, and it's done. But because we're doing this video, I wanted to have full daylight, so I have plenty of light for the camera and show you this. So we're starting here in the morning, and we're going to do this 8-hour sanitation, and then we're going to come back this afternoon, and we're going to do the rinsing and putting everything back together that way. So just bear that in mind. Now, some people suggest that you do this on move day. You fill up the water tank, you add your bleach, you get it all through the lines, you drive, and so on and so on. But you know what? For me, that just adds another level of things I've got to worry about when we're trying to leave and move that day. And then when we get to our destination, we got to mess with that too. So we like doing it when we are in a campground, we have full hookups, and it makes this process so much easier and goes a lot smoother. Sanitizing your freshwater tank and system is really not that complicated, but like everything else with RVs, you got to take certain steps when you're getting ready to do this job. Now, it's just not as simple as just adding bleach to the fresh water tank and filling your water lines with bleach. Now, since there are so many different RVs and the way they are plumbed different, and they have different accessories, some may have an ice maker or a washing machine, and on it goes, I'm going to try to comprehensively cover the things that you need to look for in your RV before you start to sanitize your fresh water system. Now, we don't have an ice maker. If you do, we need to bypass that. If you're able, just turn it off or bypass the water line that comes to it. If you're not able to do either one of those things, just go ahead and run the ice maker like you normally would and let that bleach water come up through the water line and into the ice maker. Now, it's going to be producing ice cubes with bleach in it during these 8 hours. That's okay. Throw that away, and after we do the rinse, you let your ice maker run a few more cycles to get all that bleach water out of the line till you're producing good ice with no bleach residue. We also don't have a washer dryer. But if you do, and you want to sanitize your fresh water lines coming into the washer, once the bleach is introduced into the fresh water system, turn on your water pump, start your washing machine on a small cycle, and let that bleach water come into the washing machine, and then turn it off. And it's going to sit there also for 8 hours. If you have a water filter under your sink, you're going to want to bypass this too. You don't want to run bleach water through your filter. So you're going to have an incoming line, an outgoing line, and in between those two lines you'll probably have a bypass. If you do, turn that bypass on and not allow water to circulate through the water filter. Now, if you have a water filter like this with a canister underneath your sink, simply undo the canister, remove the filter, and put the canister back on. We'll put the filter back in after the sanitation job is complete. It's also not necessary to sanitize your water heater, especially if you have a metal one like a Suburban. When bleach gets into a metal water heater, it's going to cause a chemical reaction in there and cause rust. Now, our water heater, as you know, is an Atwood water heater, and it has an aluminum clad lining, but I still bypass it. It's just not necessary to sanitize your water heater. Since my water heater is an Atwood, my bypass valve is on the back of the water heater. I have to remove this vent screen to access the valve and then turn it upwards. By doing this, when I use my water pump to pump the bleach through all my water lines inside the RV, that bleach water will not go in the water heater. Your water heater should also have a bypass valve, but it may be in a different place. It may be in the wet bay, but just refer to your user manual and find out where yours is and make sure you bypass the water heater before you run the bleach water through all the water lines. So the last thing you don't want to do is you do not want to run bleach water through your water softener. So you want to bypass that too. And the way you do that is just disconnect the hoses from each side of the water softener and put them together. Okay, so let's get started and start filling the freshwater tank with bleach. Here are the 3 main ways to add bleach into your freshwater tank. Number 1, the easiest way to get bleach into your freshwater tank is to use one of your water filter canisters. You simply put the bleach in the canister and then feed it into the tank. This is why I spent so much time working on my wet bay and my freshwater system. Besides it only taking me 3 minutes to set up when we land somewhere, having water filter canisters like this makes sanitizing a breeze. Number 2, if your RV has a separate outside filler adapter where you would normally put a hose in the outside and fill your freshwater tank that way, you take a 2-quart container, put in the appropriate amount of bleach in there, fill it up with water, use a hose and a funnel, and pour that bleach in the funnel and feed that directly into the freshwater tank. Then go ahead and attach your hose and fill up your water tank like you normally would, all the way till it's full. The third way to introduce bleach into the freshwater system is to use a winterizing kit, like this one here. This is what you would normally use when you're winterizing your RV before you put it into storage for the winter. Only this time, you're going to be pumping bleach into the freshwater system. Since there are so many different kinds of RVs and the way they are set up and plumbed, just refer to your RV user manual to the winterizing section. If you're using a winterizing kit, use a 5-gallon bucket. Fill it up about this far with water, put the amount of bleach in here that is called for your size of water tank, and then use your water pump to pump it into the freshwater tank. Then go ahead and fill up the freshwater tank using city water like you normally would. Fill it all the way to the top. So for sanitizing today, we're going to be using regular liquid bleach. We're not going to be using a gel type bleach, a no splash bleach, or a scented bleach. Regular household liquid bleach. The amount of bleach that you use is 1/4 cup per 15 gallons, or just round it up to 1 cup per 50 gallons. Now we have a 72-gallon freshwater tank. So for us today, I'm going to be using 1.5 cups of bleach. Just do the appropriate math for your size of freshwater tank. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn off the city water supply. And then in the wet bay, in our coach, I'm going to release the pressure from the lines by turning it to tank fill. That releases the existing pressure. If you don't have a release valve like that, all you have to do is go into your RV and open up any faucet, and that will release the pressure off of the lines. The next thing we're going to do, since the pressure is off, is we want to bypass the water softener, remember? So we're just going to disconnect this line, we're going to disconnect this line, and hook these 2 lines together. Now in my case, I have 2 water filters here. I have a SETI and a 0.5 micron carbon filter, but I'm going to take them both off and put the filter in a plastic bag, and I'll put that back in when we're done. The same thing with this one. Put it in a bag. Then I take the canister, the first canister, and I put it back up here. So I'm going to take my measuring cup and put in 1.5 cups. It doesn't have to be exact. It's all going to be good. Now I simply take the canister and I put it back up there. The reason I took both of these filters out is when we turn the water on, I didn't want to take any chance that some of that bleach water may backwash into this Berkey filter. So I just take them both off. I don't have to worry about it. So I've got the bleach in the canister. I got my valve still on tank fill. And now I'm going to turn the city water back on. Now what's happening is the water is coming from the city. It's going through my system, it bypasses the softener, and now it's pushed all that bleach into the fresh water tank, and I'm continuing to fill the water tank now. In preparation to do this video, I went ahead and drained my entire water tank till it was empty, and I filled it up with about 52 gallons of water. And I put my flow meter right here. So I'm watching when this gets up to 72 gallons, and then I'll turn it off. Or you can simply wait until it starts to come out the overflow under the coach. But I just thought I'd show you how I use that meter. Okay, so the freshwater tank is full of water and has bleach in it. So we're gonna turn the city water off. And the next thing I do is I turn this fill valve back to normal and I turn on the water pump. Now we're gonna go into the RV and we're going to open up every faucet, the hot and the cold side, until we smell bleach coming out of each side. I like starting here at the kitchen sink because it's the furthest away from the fresh water tank. By the time I get bleach water through here on the hot and cold side, it takes a lot less time to get the water to the other faucets and uses less water. Okay, I got bleach. Now the cold side. I got bleach here too. So now I'm going to go to all the other faucets and the shower inside the coach and do the exact same thing. I also use a bleach solution and fill up my hose by inserting a funnel at one end and filling it up, then snapping the two ends there together, and then I just coil it out and let it sit out there for about 8 hours and then flush it out. And the last thing we're going to do outside here is we're going to sanitize our outside shower, both with the hot and the cold side. And we got bleach there too. So we're done. Everything has the bleach solution in it. All of our water lines, all of our faucets, the water pump, our outside shower, and we're going to let everything sit now for 8 hours. And remember, you can't use any water inside the coach right now. The only thing you can use if you have to is the toilet. That's it. Okay, it's late afternoon now. The sanitizing has been done. It's been in there 8 hours. And so now we need to drain the fresh water tank and get all that bleach solution out of there. The way you would normally do that is right here. This is my fresh water drain valve and the pipe, and you just lift this valve up and it'll begin to drain the fresh water tank. But all that water is going to go out on the ground. And by the time we drain this tank and then come back and fill it again and do a rinse, I'm going to be running about 140, 150 gallons of water all down in through here. And where we are right now, we don't want to be running that water down into that creek. There's a much better way to do this, and I have been thinking about this for the last, I don't know, couple of years. So with my new adapter that I put up underneath the drain water pipe, we're going to be able to drain the water right into the sewer. I just released a video 2 weeks ago that made draining my fresh water tank a real game changer. It now allows me to hook up a standard sewer hose to the bottom of my fresh water tank. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll put a link to it down there in the description text and also at the end of this video. So the fresh water tank is finished draining. So we're going to close this valve. We're going to come over here to this valve and we're going to turn it on tank fill, and we're going to turn on the city water. And what we're doing now is we're filling that fresh water tank with new city water to give it a final rinse. Okay, so the fresh water tank is full again for our rinse water. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to turn off the city water again. And then we're going to come back over here and open up the drain line and empty that water into the sewer hose and into the campground sewer connection. This particular pad in this campground that we're sitting at, it was all uneven, and so I had to get creative to try to keep that hose as even as possible, right? Okay, so we have drained out the rinse water of the fresh water tank. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this off. and the city water is still off. That means there's no pressure in the lines. This is a perfect time now to put the filters back into my canisters and hook up the water softener. Okay, I got my filters in the canisters. I got my water softener hooked up. Now we're going to go and turn the city water on, and we're going to fill this fresh water tank with about 25 or 30 gallons of triple filtered softened water, because that's about the normal amount Joni and I always carry with us. It's about 25-30 gallons. Okay, our fresh water tank now has about 30 gallons or so. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the city water, and we're going to turn off the city water. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to turn the valve to normal, and we're going to turn on the water pump. The reason we're doing this is we want to use the triple filtered softened water that is now in the fresh water tank to flush out the lines inside the RV. So let's go inside and do that now. Okay, so we're here in the kitchen sink again, and we're going to lift up the hot water side first, and we're using the water pump, okay? Because we want to cleanse that water pump and also cleanse the line. Is we're going to keep running water through here until we do not smell any bleach. Okay, there's no bleach on the hot side. Now we're going to do the cold side. Okay, there's no presence of bleach in the cold side too. So what we're going to do now is go to the other two bathrooms and their faucets. We're going to do the same thing here and the shower. And the last thing we're going to do is rinse out the outside shower. So now that we have flushed out all the water lines, now you can go back to all your bypasses, whatever ones that you have, turn those back to the normal position. If you have a water filter under the sink and you remove that filter out of the canister, you can go ahead and put that back in. And if you filled your washing machine with a little bit of bleach water, go ahead and turn that on the full cycle and wash all that out too. Although I said in the beginning that this process really isn't all that complicated, for you guys looking at this for the very first time, you know, it may be a little bit overwhelming. But here's what I recommend to you. Make a list of the items that you need to bypass in your RV, their location, and how to turn them in the right position. Look up your freshwater tank size, and that will determine on how much bleach that you use in your system, etc., etc., etc. Write everything down in an outline and stash it away. Then the next time you do this, you can just pull that outline out and you'll know exactly what to do. And besides that, you only do this once a year. Okay, so now for the additional water tips that I promised you that can save you a ton of grief in the future. Number one, always, always, always turn off your main water supply, the city water supply, anytime you ever leave the coach for any extended period of time. Now, I'm not talking about when you go next door and visiting with some neighbors, but if you're going to the pool, you're going shopping, you're going exploring, you're going to go to a winery, whatever you do, when you leave the coach, turn that main water off and also turn your water pump off. These RVs have hundreds and hundreds of valves, water valves and connectors and hoses and everything underneath there. And you're driving down the road and this bouncing and doing all this stuff it does, those things can get loose. And then all of a sudden, while you are gone and you leave your water on, you get a leak. I've known two people in the last year, when they left their RV, they left the water on, only to come back to their RV and find water pouring out the bottom of it. This is the safest way to ever prevent a catastrophic water issue. Number two, always, always, always carry some fresh water with you. You don't have to carry a full tank. We have a 72-gallon water tank, like I told you, but we always usually carry 25, 30 gallons when we're traveling. The reason you do this is, let's just say you have a roadside emergency and now you're pulled over. It may be hours before you get assistance. Well, at least you got water on board and you can cook, you can clean, you can use the bathroom, what have you. Also, you never know when you arrive at a campground whether the water's going to be on. I can't tell you how many times we have arrived at a campground. Guess what? They tell us right there at the check-in station, we right now do not have any water. We have a leak and we have the whole campground shut down. Also, we have been in a campground. We've been there, say, a week or so, 3 or 4 days, what have you. And all of a sudden we'll get an email, we're shutting down the water tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We're having maintenance done. What I'm saying is, it's always a good idea to carry some water with you in your fresh water tank. And again, in our case, it's usually about 25, 30 gallons. We're pretty much ready for anything that hits us. And number three, did you know not sanitizing your fresh water pump is the #1 cause of motor pump failure? Yeah. So by what we did today, we not only cleaned all the faucets and line and tank and the outside shower and all that, we also sanitized the water pump. This is a good thing to do. So here's some closing thoughts. Whenever you watch any one of my videos, always go down there, below each video, and look at the description text. I always add more points and more information that I did not include in the video. So don't forget to do that. If you like this maintenance stuff, upgrades and DIY and how to take care of your RV, you need to go and subscribe. Subscribing to our channel is free. Can you believe that? We do all this for free. So hit the subscribe button, ring the bell off to the right, and click all, and you'll be notified every time I upload my next video. You guys can do this stuff. 80 to 90% of the things that your RV needs, you guys can do it, and I show you how to do it. Nobody has to go to the School of Hard Knocks. It's all about learning and how to take care and take pride in your RV. So if you want, I encourage you to go right up here on my main YouTube channel page, and you see there'll be a playlist tab. Click that tab, go to our playlist page, and there is a multitude of videos there on how to take care of your RV that I've already shot already. You need to really take advantage of that. And I want to thank all of you who have been using our Amazon store. The link to our Amazon store is also down there in the description text. And it's full of everything that we use to keep our RV happy. And besides, even if it's not in our store, you can still click that link, go to our Amazon store, search Amazon for the stuff that you need, put it in the cart, and check out. It's a great way to say thank you, Martin, for taking the time and making these videos and helping the RV community. So that's it for now, guys. This is how I sanitize our entire RV water system, where we have safe, good tasting water throughout the RV, and we don't have to carry all those jugs and filters and all that other stuff. It's all wrapped up into one pretty package. So until next time, this is RV Street. Stick around.